One of my favorite things about Valentine type themed makes is that even though it's about love and pinks and sweet things and sweet nothings, it's also, unlike a Christmas or kind of Thanksgiving theme idea, it's also something, these makes, that can be kind of timeless. And it's just really kind of dawned on me as I've been making this month kind of in preparation for Valentine's. It's like, I'm loving this. I'm loving having lovely cards and tags and sweet things to give at any time of the year. And I think today's make is no less that. So as you can see here, I have just a shell of a, not even a shakety shake. It's more like suspended shake, but it's beautiful sequins that I'm using this sort of larger opening die for. I mean, you could pop back in the positive pieces to the O and to the E if you wanted to, but I like the idea of having this open. And so let me show you how this came together, and I hope you'll stick around to the very end. So in the video previous to this one, we made what I call Inky Backgrounds 101. I mean, we brought in just the most basic. This one's a little bit more layered, so it's got a couple more details to it, if you will. But this one here is just our classic Inky Background 101. And so with this one here, I like having a bunch of, I've been loving having these around. I've been using them quite a bit, actually. We're going to start with this one here. And what I've done is taken the Love You die, the love. You can see, I should probably maybe cut another one because I've used this a couple times now. And I created a template so that we can build in between these layers and make sure that our love lands in the right place, because we need our love to land in the right place. All right, so for this, I thought it might be important to use a magnetic mat to set these things in place. And just because my paper is not magnetic, I'm going to go ahead and just use a little bit of mint tape to hold it down on my cutting mat. Then I'm going to get my die. So let me grab that here. There's a lot of pieces to this set. This set's been around for a while. And I was just gathering a couple weeks ago all the things that were as Valentine-y as I could find. And so this was one of the things I found, like, oh man, I haven't used it in a long time. And so this is a great example of just pulling out stash and putting it to use. Oh, that one's almost on there perfect. So I'm just using this template that I pre-cut as a guide so that my love die cut hopefully will land in the right place every time. So I want to go ahead and make this cut. So I'm going to do that now. And this is the mixed media paper that we've been inking on. Sometimes it needs, and I didn't do it, sometimes it could use 2 passes. The love is not an intricate die, so I think I just got away with only making 1 pass there. And so let's pull that off and see what we got. We have 2 things, right? And you already know this. We have the negative that we're going to be utilizing to build. Either you can make this as a card front, or you could make this as a tag. I was thinking too, a little more complicated, but it kind of suspended in between pages in a scrapbook page. I know, my mind was just kind of going everywhere, but who knows, you might see that show up, so stay tuned. You never know. And so with the mixed media, this little cut here and the L, and I didn't mean I wrinkled my paper. Don't do that when you pull yours out if you try this at home. I'm just going to cut that out because it didn't cut quite good enough. Okay, so that's nice. Okay, so this is perfectly perfect for utilizing somewhere else. It could be its own tag. There's a U in here, and I might even still use it. You could cut out the U, attach it to here. I have a bunch of these already cut here in my pink pouch. And I was thinking it could kind of be fun to build them up, and that'd be a fun element on a scrapbook page as well, with some height to them. So anyway, just food for thought there. Okay, so the next thing to do for this is to add a piece of acetate to the back. All right, and for my acetate, I only need a 3.5 by 4.5 piece. I don't actually want it to come all the way out to the outside, and I could probably even trim off a little bit more, but I didn't need it to be the whole thing. So I'm grabbing, this is the part here that takes just a moment, because what we want to do, using the 1/8 inch double-sided adhesive, now you can use any kind of adhesive you want. You can use your most favorite on this. You could use a liquid adhesive if you would like. That is truly personal preference when it comes to this. You can see I practice stamping on the back of my paper here. And there's a rogue sequin there. That will happen. Anyway, I went and I've practiced this a couple times now, and I used even a roller adhesive, the dot roller, and I ended up making a mess on my acetate, so I didn't prefer that. Now, the thing with this particular technique is you don't have to have the love completely sealed off. It doesn't need airtight sealed offness at all. And so while we want to, get a goodly amount of this covered, just know, because the sequins are suspended rather than shaking, there's not really much room in place for these sequins even to go. So therefore, not a huge need for a plethora of adhesive. So we got to do the thing here. Got to take a minute and go around and pull off our adhesive backing. So I'm going to do that. Okay, so I already had my adhesive trimmed out, which was a good thing to have done, is just go ahead and have all your bits and pieces ready to go. Okay, this can be set aside for right now. All right, I have another A2 piece of paper here. It's a relatively generic piece of cardstock. It's nothing fancy at all. And I'm going to cut yet another love out of this. And the reason for this is that I wanted just a little bit of room for the sequins to live, but not a lot. And I felt two things. A thin piece of cardstock in between is going to give it just a little bit of height for some room for the sequins. The thin cardstock also, as you're going to see, is going to hopefully, I didn't test this part yet, enable us to then do a final cut on our card with this wavy rectangle. I thought that would be really pretty and a little different than normal. I am just going to wipe off the back of my acetate so I don't have any extra rogue pieces. I am loving these crafty cloths, especially these black ones, because they just totally fit my studio. There's pink ones too. But have you seen these? They come in this roll, kind of like kitchen towel. So they easily tear away, but they're like cloth. It's really cool. I am finding myself using these everywhere. I clean almost all my lenses, including my eyewear, with these because they're a microfiber kind of texture to them. They are washable. I have washed them, and therefore they're reusable. And I am a huge fan of that for sure. I do love to be able to reuse. I've even used these with the inking when I've needed to dab. I wasn't sure how it would go, but I'm pretty happy with how they worked. And so they're lint-free. I've washed my mirrors with them, so I know they're streak-free. And I am finding that I have these now everywhere in my home, not just in the craft room. So super fun. I love when a product is so multifunctional like that. It just really works for me. Okay, so I'm going to get this in place and I'm going to cut this, okay? So that's what we're going to do next. You kind of want a lint-free cloth hanging around when you're doing a project like this, because just by virtue of the nature of die cuts, there's just the little papery pieces that kind of come free, and you don't want that to be part of your acetate. So we're going to repeat what we just did previously with the 1/8 inch. And so I'm just going to speed up through this while I do this. You've seen the routine. I'm doing the same exact thing. I don't need any extra adhesive anywhere else yet at this point. I might add just a little bit around the edges just to give a little bit more reinforcement for this layer of paper. But other than that, we're just doing what we did before. So as we put this next piece in place, it is important to take your time. And your card, my card, might not be exactly the same. Oh, I didn't take that off. I'm like, how come that's not sticking? Might not be the same. You know, you might just be off a little bit on the card part. But that's okay, because we're going to be die cutting the whole entire card. Did I take that one off? Yeah, I did. And it was kind of a funny laugh there, James. Yeah, see, I'm off a little bit on this, and I wish I wasn't. So what I'm going to do, first I'm going to get this situated here. I failed for some reason to add that down before I put in the acetate, and I don't want that flopping about. So I'm going to go in there with my pick and pull that off and line that up. And this could also be a better way to go about it, is lining it up from the front instead of from the back. The thing too is that it doesn't have to be a word. Even if you have, say, the heart doilies, that would be super pretty as well. And doing the same thing with the suspended sequins in between. So don't think it has to be a word, okay? All right, so then at this point, I am going to go ahead and add in another layer of adhesive. And then we're going to add in a layer of sequins. And the reason I'm doing this now is I don't want to be moving and turning the die cut paper after my sequins are in their little homes. And maybe now you can see why I wanted that one little additional piece of paper. Let's make sure we get these parts here. I really don't want to forget the adhesive when it has to do with the sequins now. So I'm going to go through and finish this, placing the 1/8 perfect size, although I still think we need a 1/16. What do you think? I think we could. I know y'all told me how you would have done last week's make. I still want 1/16. I just want what I want. I'm not going to take the backer paper off yet. I'm going to wait till I do have sequins in place. And don't worry about my paper not lining up. I know it's not lining up perfectly. I got a little bit of a glitch here, but have you ever heard of arrows? This is a term that's used in home design. The idea being that you have arrows in your home that point to certain things because you don't want people to see other things. I know it sounds a little hoity-toity, and I don't really think it is. I think, for example, when you walk into my home, I have a huge wall at the end of that front room. On that wall, I have a big old mirror, and I have some photography from traveling. And so I love that because that's the first thing people see. Not that I don't want them to see my living room, my front room. I really have no problem with them seeing my front room. Although don't look at my banister because it desperately needs to be repainted. So if I get people to not look at my banister and look at my gallery wall instead, we're gold, we're gold. Okay, so there's a couple ways to go about doing this. I am using Sizzix Cherry Blossom sequins, which at the very time of this recording, they were out of stock. I have clicked notify because it looks to me like it's something that they do carry fairly regularly. And this particular, there are several to this. I guess there's 5 that come with this. You've probably seen me use this before. And actually, Very recently, I used it on this shaker present, and this is so pretty. This is so fun. I had so much fun making this. You probably would like me to demo this, wouldn't you? Of course, this is probably what I should have demoed this week. But that's super fun, huh? I love it. Let me know if you'd like that demoed. But I used all the different sequins in that. Today, we're just using these circles and these hearts. And there's also these little tiny ones in here too. And I decided... And maybe, again, I don't use sequins a whole lot. I have been getting more into shaker cards lately. But I was thinking like a cute little sweet spoon, which you could probably find thrifting, which I'm going to put on my list when I do go thrifting again, see if I can just find a really cute sweet spoon. Because I think that would be fun for gathering these smaller pieces, because there's these two different sizes in here. And that's why I went ahead and spread them all out, and then just picking them up with the craft pick in hopes that I can at least display them in a relatively organic manner. We'll see. You be the judge. You tell me if you think that works. But because these are suspended, we have the privilege of placing these items where we want them to go, and to make sure that they're not layered on top of each other, because you're never going to see that one, of course, unless you're looking at the back. And then you want to make sure too the sequin. Now, the other thing I thought was, if you don't have sequins, the other things we could use, sometimes our border punches have fun little shapes to them. That'd be a great way to DIY shaker elements. Regular paper punches, if you have butterflies, stars, hearts, small circles. Stars are a great one as well. So if you don't have sequins, this is something you want to try. Don't wait to have sequins. Just make your own. That's so fulfilling. Okay, I'm going to call this good here. All right, now we're going to go for some hearts, because these are so pretty. These are the most beautiful hearts. And so I want to make sure I have a decent assortment of them. I also, too, love being able to just pop these out of this container as well. You can't really fit much in here. The V is pretty skinny, so we'll have to make sure we get the tiny hearts in there. And that's what these are. The little parts to this little jar are the hearts. I'm calling this a great slow down activity, because you really do need to be slow and deliberate while going in and pulling these strips away, if this is your adhesive of choice, a paper-backed sticker adhesive. And I can only speak for myself, but obviously recording here with you all right now, there's no music on, there's no video playing, there's no one in the house, just because of the time of day it is. It's just really quiet. It's really peaceful. It's very deliberate. It's just, ooh, did you see what I did there? Oh, okay, I'm just gonna give this a real quick lint-free little situation here. I think for me, these are really precious moments. I think all of us live really full lives, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think it's a matter of trying to have a badge of busy. All right, let's look at this. Oh, they're moving. Huh, I didn't have these move before. Isn't that interesting? They're not all moving, but these guys right here want to move. That's interesting, because I even tried this with thicker paper in between, which would have given it even more room. I didn't want the thicker paper because I want to be able to still cut it with this wavy rectangle. Huh. Oh well, so I lied. But it's still so cool. Anyway, the point of my conversation here is inviting these moments into our lives that invite us into quiet, into still, into purposeful deep breaths. I guess I'm just trying to be more mindful of that with the crazy of all the world, and these little moments that we can steal for ourselves and make either for ourselves or for somebody else can be really precious. They can be really precious moments for us. I wanted to use, I think, this paper here. This is from the Pinks. Okay, you can use any paper, but I wanted to, the idea here is, this is the final layer on the back so that we can cover all that up, okay? But while this would look fine, I really wanted the see-through thing. So I'm going to trim this paper down to the same size as this, 8¼ A2, so 4¼ by 5½. Then I'm going to line it up again just like we did before and trim it out. Okay, two things here. I made a mistake and I cut my other paper wrong, so I had to get another piece of paper. I had no more color of that left, so we're going a little brighter here, but I think it'll be okay with some of these pinks in here. It's gonna be fine. Besides, it's the backer. Secondly, this time, and because I have a little mistake here and I didn't layer that as nicely as I could have, I decided that I'm gonna go from the front to lay down and line up the die to the front openings. Does that make sense? And so I put adhesive on this back paper and then laid it, and I'm really happy with that. So you can't see any of the pink. So that turned out kind of nice. Yay. So you got to kind of practice this concept a little bit. Now the trick is going to be, because my papers are pretty thick, and if you had the Switch die cutting machine, I would suggest that, because it's that thing is a monster machine and it will cut anything. I'm going to still go ahead and try this with my P6. I may have to go through a couple times. I also think I'm going to have to lay over another piece of paper on the top of this just so I don't get any indentions from my cutting pad onto the surface of my card. So I'm going to put this in place here. It's going to come over just a little bit, I think, to center it. Now the wavy rectangles do have a A2 size. This is not the A2 size. This is the second size in. So if this is something that you want to try, let me share a little story with you. Every day, well, not every day. Well, yeah, every day, because I make so many mistakes in my life every day, or something will cause me to really have to rework an idea or a thing. I don't know. It could be anything. It could be a conversation with somebody in my home, anything. I very, 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 very often I'll come back with, so what did you learn from that? Instead of, well, that was a waste of time, or that took too long, or what did that mean? I'm learning to ask myself, what did I learn? And so what I learned from this is to do this again. I would pre-cut all my papers with the wave. When I was working on this, it kind of came to me, I think I also want to cut this because I just want to have the edges finished. And so that's kind of where that came from. But I would pre-cut the 3 layers. So the top one here that we inked based on last video's little inking tutorial, plus a little bit of stamping. Oh, and plus distress. So we have 3 layers on there actually. And then I would take those 3 papers and I would trim them all, cut them all, die cut them all with the wavy rectangle here. And then I would do one more and I would make my template from that. Remember our template? So that everything gets lined up. That would have been really smart. But I'm here to share with you constantly. I mean, I think constantly, that it doesn't have to be perfect to be beautiful. And that there's more than one way to do a thing. And I wanted to let you know that that would have, you probably even thought that. But as it was a little bit challenging to get it through the machine, and a switch machine would have been just dandy with it. That's my suggestion. Cut your 3 papers first and then go about this. So at this point we can add the U, we can add some ribboning, we could add this to a gift for Valentine's Day or for any other day of the year. You could do this with any die cut opening. You could do this with a heart opening. That'd be super sweet too. So be sure and check out my other videos that I'm going to have listed in the descriptions, and especially that Inky Background. Thank you for watching.